Sometimes I'll explain a book that I love and I'm like, did I just make that sound bad? Okay, hello. Hi. Oh, hi. And hi. Oh, yeah, I know. I'm in my hometown right now in the Midwest. It is very quiet except for cicadas, and the sun's going down soon. But I wanted to sit in my mom's garden here and talk about some books. This one music writer I really like said that every year she tries to read her age in books. So my reading challenge this year was 26, the age I just turned. I just hit 25, so we'll see where we get. But there's been some real winners in that 25. I think this has really been a sweet little year. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, the year is only half over, but the year is actually much more than half over. A lot of the books I've been reading fall into my favorite genre, which is gay people walking around the block thinking about shit. The book I'm reading right now, It's a Galley of Small Rain by Garth Greenwell, my fave. And he's literally in the hospital thinking about shit in this book, and it's so good. It's so good. Also, this is my Lucy Dacus merch. We're in Lucy's Night Shift Diner. I'm in this little 3-week period right now where I don't live in a city. It's been really good for me. I've fully moved out of Los Angeles. And I'm moving to New York like right now. Like that's happening as we speak. I have a lot to say for sure about leaving Los Angeles, and I have a lot of feelings about it. But mostly I'm just so fucking excited. I'm so excited. Anyway, I am actively losing sunlight right now. I'll just get into it and tell you that my favorite book of the year so far, and probably this is gonna be hard to top, best book of the year so far, is Ways and Means by Daniel Lefferts. This is one of those books where I'm not sure if I would have just picked it up based on cover and title alone. I'm very curious. I have a feeling there will be a different paperback cover because this book is so gay and fun, but it looks like a crime procedural. At the beginning of this book, we meet Alistair. He is on the run. We don't know why, but he's on the run. He's in New York. He's an NYU student, a finance guy, and he's been involved with some people and this job, and something awful has happened. A lot of the book is kind of going back over the past few years of his life, and it's kind of you're probably wondering how I got here. So he has to run away from New York to stay with his mom in hiding. The backstory of how he got there is so crazy. And also just the storytelling, the pacing of this book is exquisite because he has you hanging by a thread, and every time you think you're about to finally get there, he'll go back in a way that is almost frustrating, except everywhere you go is somewhere new and exciting in the story, and then it all crashes together. It's a big chunk of it follows his early years at NYU. He's not discovering his sexuality because there is sort of this relieving and seemingly pretty intentional lack of coming out. There's only 2 instances of him very casually having to come out to someone. Hi. But early sexual experiences in the city, he gets involved with this couple, Mark and Elijah. That to me is the best part of the book is when he's with them, because the psychology of the 3 of them, the writing in that to me was the strongest. There are some lines in this book that talk about what it means to be queer, discourse around tops and bottoms and power. And this book is also set in 2016, just before the election. There is so much talk about what it means to be queer around such a tense election like that. There are some really provocative gay characters in this. I mean, there's heavy representation of different types of mostly gay men, but they're certainly not in an echo chamber. The discourse in this book is intense. There's also a huge finance component of politics, late stage capitalism, art, and also just immaculate writing, immaculate character building. I wanted this book to never end. It's one of those books where it's oh, I never thought I would read something like this, but now it feels so obvious. I'm so glad this book exists. So that's Ways and Means. I have not stopped thinking about it since March. The next book, well, there's 3 books by this author that I've read this year, and this has become one of my favorite authors, and it's Brontez Purnell. And this is his first book, Johnny, Would You Love Me If My Dick Were Bigger, which is crazy. I underlined all over this book. The first book of his that I read, though, is one that got sort of a bigger publication a couple years ago, 100 Boyfriends. So I read that, and then I went back and read this one. And then he had a book come out this year called 10 Bridges I've Burnt, which is an amazing title, and it's actually a memoir in verse. Brontez Purnell is an amazing artist. He does a lot. The way he talks in his books about like addiction, sex, heavy on the sex, self-loathing, they're so well written. They have this sense of being like free-flowing and stream of consciousness, but also so compact and so like efficient in the words he's using. That takes a lot of work, and I admire these books so much just for that. I could read him, like read all of these basically in a day, but I can pretty confidently say that no book ever has made me laugh out loud as much as like this one specifically. The next book I read pretty recently is In Tongues by Thomas Grattan. This book was giving like gay ladybird post-college. So he's like 24 maybe, but he moves from the Midwest to New York. The main character, Gordon, which is my grandpa's name, through a series of events, he ends up working as a dog walker and then gets hired as a personal assistant to this gay couple who they're an older couple, and they like work in the art world. Sort of just like the antics that go down around that and around him being fresh out of a breakup and like living his gay life in New York City, which is just as, you know, just as good and bad as it might sound. This is kind of one of those slice of life stories where it's not like, and then he goes on a quest to, like, I read this pretty slowly because I could kind of just like come back to it and get kind of like a glimpse of what was going on. And it wasn't until maybe the last third where I was like, I need to get through this. I appreciated it in that way because it kind of went against what I would normally look for in a book, which is kind of that like hazy, nostalgic, like, you know, finding meaning in everything. And this was pretty like cut and dry, as the narrator's voice was, at least. There was no kind of forced self-discovery. Things were just kind of happening to him. When things would come to a head, it was so deeply earned, and we had watched things slowly come together, but there weren't these forced moments that often happen in coming of age stories like that. So sometimes I was kind of holding my breath for that, but then something unexpected would kind of go down, and it felt so I just knew I was in good hands with this writer. Like I felt very calm reading this book. By the end, I really felt like the main character, and like I felt a pretty big emotional release at the end of this, one that I hadn't really felt building. And I think that is the sign of a very skilled writer here. I know he has another book called The Recent East that I'm going to read soon. So just like beautiful, beautiful gay storytelling. Thank you. And finally, I want to tell you about another new favorite book of all time of mine, which is Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. I had the chance to meet Kaveh Akbar at the LA Times Festival of Books this year. He signed this book, and as we were talking, he told me the original dedication was for drunks. A lot of this book deals with sobriety, and I said, oh, I love knowing that, because we were sort of chatting about that. And so he crossed out the dedication that's there and he wrote for drunks. And so I treasure this copy so much. So the main character of the novel is a young man named Cyrus. He is newly sober. He is Iranian. Both of his parents have passed away. His mom died in this really tragic plane crash, and a lot of the book is sort of him coming to terms with the pointlessness, as he says, of that loss. So it really is a novel about grief, addiction. He ends up going to New York to talk to this artist who is dying, and she is doing this performance art piece where she is in the museum and you can talk to a dying person in her last days. And so Cyrus, the main character, goes and sort of learns a lot from her, and then we end up seeing excerpts throughout of the book that he is working on writing. And then, really interestingly, we switch perspectives throughout the book to his father, to his mother. I'm making this sound like more convoluted than it really even is. I mean, it is a little bit. There's a lot going on in this book. Hearing Kaveh Akbar speak was sort of a very similar experience to reading his book, which is just this, like, I imagined these like thick ribbons of just wisdom, such deeply earned, processed grief and just aliveness come through. This is the kind of book where the actual plot doesn't call for it, but the writing has you just like on edge the whole time. It kind of feels like a fever dream. I mean, it is full of full of wisdom, full of heart. This book is insane. This is another book. All of these have been where I have underlined this book like crazy. Kaveh Akbar is a poet, and that really comes through. This definitely reads as like poet writing a novel. Sometimes I'll explain a book that I love, and I'm like, did I just make that sound bad? So those are some books that I'm loving right now. Thank you for watching. I'd love to hear what you've been reading. If you like any of those books, just what's up? Thanks for watching. I hope you're having a good summer wherever you are, whatever you're doing. I hope you're taking care of yourself. My name's Tiernan, and